everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for sticking with me. It's been a busy few months and I'm really excited to share with you this video I did of an interview with Sean Yeoh. He is an employee at Disney and we're super excited because our family is planning to go to Disney World for the first time with all three kids. So hope you enjoy this interview. Also, hi Sean. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit more. We met on the Facebook group SAT, right? Subtle Asian Traits, and I just joined that group not so long ago, and it was just really encouraging to see so many great stories from different backgrounds and different people. And I saw your story and it caught my eye, and I was just so excited to get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you too, Jennifer. And yeah, that SAT group. Yeah, that's a great place to meet people and see experiences from different parts of the world. With our Asian community. So I'm glad that that's how you found me and that's how we met. So that's awesome.
Yay. Awesome. So can we start by I'm curious to know just about your background, like where you're from, where were you born, where your family from? Can you tell us a little bit about your background, just culturally?
Yeah, of course. So if I'm not wrong, I think for you, you were from outside of the States and then
Right.
you came here and grew up, right? So I'm kind of like the opposite.
Mhm.
I was born in New Jersey and then I moved to Malaysia and grew up there for most of my life. And
Wow.
the way that happened is my dad's business, both my parents are Malaysians, by the way. So
Mhm.
his business brought him to the States. And then till about I was maybe 5 or 6, we all moved back together to Malaysia. So I did primary school there, secondary school, which here I believe they call elementary and high school.
Mhm.
So did that in Malaysia. Did a year of college in Malaysia as well, and then I came back here to New Jersey to finish my degree, and uh, and then yeah, fast forward a couple years later, I'm working here at Disney, and I graduated with my MBA not too long ago under Disney. So that's kind of like my overview of my background. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So do you remember moving back, or not moving back, but do you remember moving to Malaysia and that transition at all?
Kind of, sort of, because that's
You're pretty young.
yeah, I was pretty young, and then at that time, I don't really remember the transition so much, but I do remember sort of starting school in Malaysia because I can't remember the exact age, but I believe you start at 6 or 7, but here in America you start at probably 5 or 6 or something like that. So I actually did kindergarten here and grade one. So I do remember the transition of going from like the American school over to the Malaysian school, and it's so different. It's if anyone's ever been to Malaysia or just I guess outside of America in general, the schools is very different. So that's sort of kind of what I remember.
Yeah.
So
So did you have to learn a new language? Like, did you already speak, was it Malay in Malaysia?
Malay. So yeah, I did not speak the language. I only knew sort of English, and then my mom would speak Cantonese with us. But like you said, the language that's used in Malaysia is Malay. I did not speak a lick of it, so I learned that from young. They teach you right away when you start school, and so now I now I know it. So I'm happy to say I know a few languages, but I've not had the any I don't want to say any use of it outside of Malaysia, but I really never used it anywhere outside of Malaysia. So, but I'm happy to know other languages, at least.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then
Yeah.
we decided to come back to the US to study. Can you tell me a little bit about like how did you choose your career? Like what did you major in?
Yeah. So, like I said, I did a year of college in Malaysia first, and the intention was always for me to come back to the States to finish my studies because I was born here. So it made sense to come back and take advantage of the benefits, being from the States and such. But I'll be honest when I say that I did not exactly know what I wanted to do when I was in Malaysia still. My dad was in business for all his life, and we kind of thought that was always my trajectory of doing business. And so I did major in marketing for my bachelor's. That's what I finished in when I came back here to the States. The Malaysian uh, college that I did, it was like we call it a 1+3. So you did a year in Malaysia and then you do 3 years outside of Malaysia. So obviously with me, I chose America to finish. And like I said, it was marketing that I majored in. And how I got into uh, marketing, or I guess how did that transition to Disney? It's kind of almost two different things. And you may ask this down a question of this down later, but just really is, like I said, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Kind of, the intention was always that I was going to do business, um, but I knew I always wanted to work for Disney, just because kind of who doesn't want to work for Disney, you know? So
Happiest place on earth, right? So it must be the happiest place to work.
yeah, exactly. And I'm a Disney kid. Like I think so many people would say the same thing. They grew up with Disney. Everything about their childhood was Disney. So, to me, it just made sense. And I realistically, I would have wanted to get a marketing job with Disney, but at that time, my intention was just to because obviously I was a fresh graduate with my marketing degree, did not have too much experience. So I kind of figured that wouldn't have been easy to do, just straight away get into marketing with Disney. So I kind of started from entry level and then slowly worked my way up. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
Yeah, so you did some different jobs before you finally landed at Disney.
Yeah, I did one other job before I got into Disney. So I kind of knew it was not easy to get into Disney just because everyone wants to work for Disney. So I, made sure I thought about that and had a backup plan of you know, what if I don't ever get a role with Disney? So I couldn't just sit around waiting. So I did work for a lighting company doing marketing. So I did that for about 2 years. So that's how long it took me to actually get something with Disney. That whole entire time, I was just applying to Disney. Not all roles, things that applied to me, of course. But that was sort of what I was doing while waiting for something with Disney. And yeah, 2 years later, I got my first role with Disney in 2017. So that was,
Wow,
yeah.
that's wonderful. I think that's a good word of advice too for young folks because sometimes they have this great dream, right? Like you had this great dream that maybe it's not the first step to get there, but maybe it's the second or third step. And there might be some intermediates in between.
Yes, it's very good point. That's exactly right. And this is just words of wisdom from my parents, just it's don't make sure you have a backup plan is kind of the
Mhm.
thing. And I am very lucky that I have very supportive parents that were willing to support me in whatever I did. Really, the only thing with them is that make sure you get your education. Anything after that you want to do, will support you. So I've been very lucky that I have great parents to do that, because I know maybe others might not be that lucky, especially coming from an Asian background where a lot of times your path is sort of set. So and maybe that could be something to do with my parents coming to the States and working here and having a little more of a westernized outlook of life. So whatever it is, I guess I'm very fortunate to have such supportive parents. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And I think, and I don't want to give Asian parents a bad name, but I think a lot of times they really do mean well. Like when they say like, "Oh, here's what you should do. Here's what you should do." I feel like they really
Absolutely.
want the best for their kids. It's not to
Hmm.
say like, they want to limit their kids, but sometimes they're thinking that's what's best for you may not be what you're thinking is best for you, right? Like if you're like you really want to
So
be a
true.
musician or if you want to be an artist and your parents are not supportive of that, like
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want you to be an artist or a musician. They're just
Hmm.
afraid that you're not going to be able to feed yourself. You know what I mean? So
Such a good point. No, and hopefully others at around my age know that, that really the intention is good. They just want to make sure that you're well off on your own.
yeah,
So
there's
very
definitely
good
that
point.
tension there for sure, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's very good point. Hmm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, can you tell me a little bit about your job at Disney? Like, has it changed over time? You mentioned your first role and then the job you're doing now. Is it really different than what you started doing?
Yes. So I've actually held four different roles so far with Disney, including the one I'm in right now. So when I first started, like I said, it was an entry level role,
Mhm.
and it was called Sales and Solutions Specialist, which back then I think it was called e-commerce support, which really was you know, helping with website challenges, the My Disney Experience application challenges. So it was really techie sort of the thing. So that was my first role, and even though it wasn't like the ultimate dream job, but it was a great foot in the door with Disney.
Mhm.
Like I've learned so much starting from entry level. And I was also lucky in a sense that because the department was kind of new, so it was growing at such a rapid pace. I got to be a part of so many different pilots and projects in that first role. So I've met so many great people. And you might hear me mentioning this quite a bit, that the one thing amazing about Disney is the people that you work with. They're always there, willing to help you and guide you. So I'm so lucky that I've uh, built so many connections like that. So that was my first role. And then second was something called a data content specialist. And with that one, we were sort of building the brain of smart speakers that were going to be installed in the Disney Resort room. So
Oh,
imagine
wow.
like,
Mhm.
yeah, imagine like Alexa or Google Assistant, but in your very own room with maybe a Mickey Mouse voice or Goofy voice, and then you can order room service, check park hours, things like that from
Wow.
your
So is
room.
that
So,
there now? Is that a real thing now?
so funny thing about that was that with obviously everything that's happening, I think the project got halted, but right before everything, I know they were testing it in a couple of resort rooms, and we got to see it online how it worked. So they were testing it, and then it was right before all the pandemic. So now I'm pretty sure the project has halted, but hopefully maybe next time we'll get to see it, and then I'll be like, when I stay in a room, I'll be like, hey, I was part of this project.
Yay!
But uh
That sounds
and
really,
then
really fun. That sounds like
yeah, no,
a
it's
project.
exciting, the
Mhm.
different projects that I got to be a part of. And then that was a temporary assignment, which is sort of to say a project based role. So it wasn't really permanent or anything. And same thing with my third role that I held, which was a telecommunication specialist.
Mhm.
And just by the name, you can tell it's a little more technical. This was my first role that I was sort of on the backstage of everything, so supporting cast members
Mm.
instead of the guest directly. So again, I learned so much from all the roles that I've ever held. I've met so many great people who just helped propel me to my next role.
Mhm.
And then now I'm my fourth role is as a contact center coordinator. It's called
Mhm.
under the Disney Cruise Line umbrella. And I, by far, this is my most favorite role that I've held so far because I handle the recognition program and the work at home portion of everything. So something very fulfilling of coming up and creating events that help motivate cast members, fun things to do, because since cast members are the backbone of the company. So,
Mm.
that I truly enjoy what I do right now. But I know for a fact it might not be my last role because something about me is that I just love growing and I love trying new things. So we'll see where the next role takes me. But that's,
Absolutely. That's so
yeah.
wonderful. I think nowadays, like it used to be that people do a job and then they do that for many, many years. But nowadays it's not like that anymore. Like people learn and grow and it's very natural to move to different roles.
Yeah, no, again, excellent point, excellent point. Especially with Disney, because it's such a big company with so many different divisions to try out.
Mhm.
And to your point, I know traditionally people look at it and it's like it's kind of frowned upon for jumping around so much and having so many jobs on your resume. And uh, while that may be true, I feel like maybe outside with more traditional companies, with Disney, they actually, if anything, advocate that kind of behavior because they love it when their cast member gains so much experience from this division, that division, and then bring it all together into other divisions. So that's one thing I love about the company too, working for Disney. So
Yeah, that
yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Do you feel like, I mean, I think sometimes, I mean, for young professionals, like I worked in a company for about 12 years and it was pretty much the same role, although it's different because it was like research and engineering. So it's kind of like most people, really stayed in their role for a long time.
Yeah.
I wonder if you have words of advice for young people who want to change roles and like, would you recommend just like applying for them? Like, is that what you normally do, or is it more about connections and like getting to know people and then they kind of put you in that role? Because I think it's a little bit different in each
Yeah.
company, right?
Yes, yes. And it's very hard for me to say how it's like in other companies just because I've been with Disney for most of my career so far, so far. So just speaking from my perspective and how I do it here is if you're looking to change roles and or try something new, the way I always do it is I reach out to maybe someone who's already in that role through
Mm,
LinkedIn or anything, and I'll ask about their experience. I'll see how the environment is like, and 99% of the time they are more than willing to share their experience and something here in Disney is that they love to do meet and greets. So you can actually set up a meeting with a leader or manager in a different part of the company, and then you can go there, shadow them, watch how the environment is like, whether you like it, whether you think it's a right fit.
Mhm.
Because just because you want to change role doesn't mean that role may be something fit for you. So the way I tend to do it is I like to find out as much as I can about that role. And if possible, set up a meet and greet, shadow the environment. And if I think it's a right fit, then I would apply. So I should say that this is if I see an open position on the career site that I like and I'm curious about. So because not every time the career site is gonna have something that you want. So you just kind of look out for things that you may be interested in, and then you go from there. So that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah, that's such great advice. I never thought about that because normally we think about job shadow for students, right? Like college students or high school students, they do the job shadow.
Yeah,
But you rarely see that happen once people go into the workplace. But it makes perfect
yeah.
sense that you want to try out that environment and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. I try to pay it forward, because when
Hmm.
like I said, 99% of the time people will be more than willing to share their experience and help someone else. So I try to do that too. So I don't know if other people may not like that, people reaching out and wanting to pick your brain, but I know I am someone who would be more than happy to do it and help someone else. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so cool. So maybe switching gears a little bit, I want to hear more about Disney because our family is actually planning a trip there. We haven't gone as a whole family before. I've only gone with my husband. We've gone once with to Disney World. We've gone once with
okay.
my oldest son, but he was only like 1.5, so we really didn't do much. It was just like Magic Kingdom, like go on the carousel, and that was it. So we're
Yep.
very excited. Hopefully everything with the pandemic is going to be all good and we'll get the green light to go. But do you want to share anything about what's exciting happening now down there? Are you in Orlando or are you near Orlando?
Yeah, I live in a place called Kissimmee, which is right beside Orlando. I used to live in
Okay.
Orlando. So yeah, definitely still a stone throw away from Disney. But that's so exciting, first of all, that you're coming. So anyone, we're friends now, and anyone who watches, if you're coming down, let me know, and I can hook you up with fun stuff.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah, so exciting things. I mean, what's not exciting about Disney, I guess. Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna have a great time with your family. So I don't know when's the last time you've been here, and if you remember how everything was, but obviously coming down now, in the middle or sort of post-pandemic-ish, since everything is open now. Things will be a little different in the sense of the health and safety measures that you would follow when you're here. But personally speaking, and not trying to sound biased just because I'm a cast member, but I do feel like the magic is still there. They like it's not the same, definitely, but they do such an amazing job at trying to make sure that everyone is safe while keeping the magic alive. So I'm pretty sure that the last time you came, a lot of new things weren't uh, here yet. So now you have Toy Story Land, you have Pandora, you have Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Like this is probably like a conversation, a whole nother like hours that I could go on about what's new here. But
Sure.
yeah, really, it's the you'll have fun. The magic is still here, even though we're still in a pandemic. So, uh, you know, we'll get in touch after this.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. And we just definitely, I saw some of the pictures that you post, and it's just so exciting to see also Shang-Chi, the new movie that came out. It's such a great
Yeah.
thing for Asian Americans. And then I know that you work with the crews, and I know that been kind of difficult because of the pandemic, everything had to shut down, but it sounds like things are opening up again, and that's super exciting to me as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And you cannot imagine how excited cast members are to come back to create that magic. I was part of the furlough actually, so I was one of them who during about a year and a half was just sitting at home and anxious to come back, so to your point, I am very happy that everything is back to you. And you saw my photos, but I just recently got off of a test cruise, which we were, because the cruises are all coming back now,
Mhm.
and I was part of testing how everything is, is it safe enough, is it fun enough, so it
That sounds
I
like
can
a really
say.
fun job. It's like, come test out the cruise.
Oh, that doesn't happen too often, but I guess it's one of the benefits. You just never know. Obviously, if there was no pandemic, there would be no such thing as, oh, come test the cruise, or whatever. But I am very fortunate that I was able to be part of that to help sort of pave the way of bringing the magic back. So, but there are other great benefits at Disney, even if it's not a test cruise. So,
I'm sure, I'm sure. So this might be a very difficult question, but I want to ask you anyway. So what do you think is the best thing about working at Disney? Because you already mentioned the wonderful people that you work with. If you had to think of, the most the best thing. I mean, I'm sure there's many things that you could mention. That's why it's difficult.
yeah, I love how you say, yeah, it's difficult, and then it is to pinpoint one exact thing. And ooh, let me think. Uh, so many things, like you said. If you forced me to say one thing, it just has to be the culture.
Mm,
Um, so, like I said, I have worked only in one other company, non-Disney, and then coming from that to Disney, like the culture is just different from anything I've ever seen or worked in. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the people are amazing. They just want to help you, and then the culture is magic. I mean, they the intention is to create magic for other people, and then you're part of that process. It's just really sometimes mind-boggling that you're on the backside of everything. So just the culture, I guess, is just all
yeah,
I can
that's
say.
that's a really good point because I think the culture is probably the most difficult thing to create, right? Like in a company,
Yes.
when people work in a company that doesn't have such a great culture and the higher ups people are saying we need to change our culture, it doesn't happen overnight. Like it doesn't happen just okay, the culture's changed, and there's not really a set way to change it. So it's such a special thing to have that in a company where you have that amazing culture where it's already there. And I just
Yeah.
think it's a very difficult thing to create, and it's a very difficult thing to change once it's there, especially if it's
You
not so
are
good.
right. Yeah, no, you are so right. And it really hard to compare to other companies too, because like Disney has been doing this for so long, and they are masters at creating like details and storytelling. So this culture was created, not like you said, not overnight. Like this was done since whenever they started, in the 1950s. So it's just it's hard. It's like you said, if a company wants to just change their culture, because this is something that takes time. So but if I ever do branch off and make my own company or business, it's such a great company to pull examples from, so but yeah, the
Yeah.
very good point, Jennifer.
To model after, yeah. I mean, you mentioned a lot too, like the idea of the cast member, right? Because I think most companies don't really use like a phrase like that. They'll say, "Oh, the employees," or whatever. But the cast member, just the fact that you mentioned that, like even if it's not a person who's directly interacting with the final customer, everybody has a role to play in creating that magic and creating that experience. And I think
Hmm.
just the idea of calling each person a cast member, like, I think it does help you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like it feels like it would help each person really imagine their role to be like creating that experience for the final customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like you're a cast member. It's like you know the lingo. Just that word itself, cast member. It's like you say, other places say employees, we say cast members, and Disney has their own lingo of everything. We actually don't say managers, we say leaders
Oh,
here, your title. So those another example. And it's just such a good point. It's just little things, like even on the back end of everything, like when we're not talking to guests, like even when I'm just talking to my coworker, we're saying cast members, and we're not saying customers, we're saying guests. So it's just
I said
really.
customer, sorry.
Oh, no, no, did you say customer? I didn't even realize, but
Yeah, I'm actually
that's
thinking like
just.
the end. Usually, right, we're thinking like the end customer, right? But yeah, I love the
Oh
idea.
yeah, you did. Okay, yeah, you did. But no, that's it's just another example. We don't say customer, we say guest. It's just such an amazing culture that's created here, and it probably, it all started with Walt Disney, because he came from the movies and television background. So in that industry, you say cast members. So his idea is that everyone has a role to play in the bigger part of the show, which is to the guests. And that it all started with him, and he's just such a genius, and really, it's amazing for what he did. So it all started with him.
So inspirational.
Yeah. it, I'm very lucky to be part of something so magical. So yeah.
Well, I think they're also very lucky to have you because, I think, like you said, Disney is
Oh,
made up of all the people, and having amazing people is what can propel them even further. So,
oh, that's too nice of you to say, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you call it the company who made me like this, or just me who I'm like this in general. But uh, actually, I mean, yeah, I was always a optimistic, happy person even before, and I take that after my parents, mostly my mom, who's always just a positive person. So it just added to the Disney vibe. So
absolutely.
it just kind of connected. So
Yeah. So I'll ask you a last question, and this is usually the question I like to end with is so if you could talk to the young people, like whether they're in high school or college, and maybe they have a similar dream like you, maybe they want to work for Disney, or maybe they want to pursue their MBA or business degree, what advice would you have for them?
what advice? And it's so funny that I would be asked that, because I feel like I'm still growing and so much to do, so young. So
Sure.
I don't know if I could say this is advice, but um I would just, it might sound cliche just to say, just follow your dreams and go for it, and things like that, which if you really feel passionate about something, definitely do it. And but just make sure there's always a fallback plan. And that me ended up here working at Disney, as much as I wanted to work for the company, like I said in the beginning, I always made sure I had a backup plan. So
Yeah,
it's great to chase after your dreams and follow your passion, but um, make sure that you also have a plan B of what if this doesn't work out. And it's hard because I know when people chase things with the passion, they do it 100%. They don't want to be distracted with anything. So, which is why I don't really know if this is advice or more of just from my own experience. But like, make sure you're thinking of a backup plan, because while like for me, for example, I know I always want to work for Disney, but I know that while I was chasing my dreams to end up working at Disney, I had a other job, and I didn't have to worry about feeding myself or surviving, so I could still chase my dream while also being in a backup. So uh, this is advice from my parents, so that they are very supportive in everything I do, but they wanted to make sure I have an education so that I can get another job, if my plan A doesn't work out. So uh long story short, I guess have a backup plan. While you can totally absolutely still chase your passion and dream, but make sure you also are grounded to the real world and have plan B. So yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know if that's
That's good.
advice, Jennifer, but
No, I think it's good. It's good to know because I think a lot of students, there's kind of the two extremes, right? Where they're like very conservative and they just say, okay, I'm just going to get this job that maybe I don't really love, and then that's it, right? And then there's the other extreme where they're like, okay, I'm going to go to this city or that city and spend all my savings and do this, and then not really have a backup plan. So I think what you said really makes a lot of sense is that you can really balance the two and not go too much in what
yeah.
either direction.
Yeah, you can be in the middle. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. And I'll be an example of that. You can be in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much for your time. Um,
Ah, thank you for having me. I am happy that I get to share this story if anybody is happy to listen. So thank you for having me, Jennifer.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun. Please subscribe to this channel for more interviews and fun videos like this. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.